You're listening to Nurturing Parents, the official podcast of the Radically Inclusive Parenting Project. Here, we hold space for real conversations at the intersections of parenting, spirituality, and justice. With each episode, we bring together experts, everyday parents, and advocates to explore how we can raise the next generation with purpose, intention, and love. So whether you're tuning in from a quiet moment of rest or in the middle of the beautiful chaos of family life, take a deep breath and let's journey together. Hello, my name is Nettie, and I'm a co-director of the Radically Inclusive Parenting Project. Welcome to another episode of Nurturing Parents. I'm so glad to have Amena Mebane here with us today. Amena earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in American Studies with honors from UC Berkeley, focusing on race, law, and social movements, along with a minor in African American Studies. She later obtained her JD from the University of Washington School of Law, where she graduated Order of Barristers. After serving as a deputy prosecuting attorney in Seattle, she returned to her home state of California, where she now enjoys her roles as a wife, mother, and estate manager. Amena also is the co-founder and co-chair of Parents of Black Students, where she curates culturally affirming programs for students and families. Thank you, Amena, for your advocacy work and for being here today.
Thank you, Nettie, so much for having me. I'm excited to share this space with you.
I'm excited too. To help us get started, would you be willing to share a little bit about who you are and how long you've been a parent?
Absolutely. So I have been a parent, for almost 11 years. My oldest will be 11 soon. And I am a mother of 4, but I have 3 living children. And their ages are almost 11, so 10, 8, and 3.
That's incredible. So there's probably a lot of energy at home, right?
Yes, from my kids and my husband. So full house here.
Oh yeah, don't forget the husband. You have that other energy source at home. I can relate because I have my 4 little ones and you know my family. It's been really cool to see our friendship grow. We've known each other for about the same time you've been a mom because
That's right.
we met when you were almost about to have your first child.
Oh my gosh.
So that's really cool to have that shared experience together. And we've even moved to similar areas, which is funny too.
Yes, our spirits are connected and following each other.
Yes, I agree. Something that I know about you that I think is amazing is you have a passion to teach your children about social justice movements in America. And you really value teaching about Black culture, African American history. And I'm curious if you could share with us where that passion came from.
Yeah, it really stemmed from my upbringing and my childhood. So I was born and raised in Leimert Park, which is considered by many the cultural mecca of Los Angeles. So on any given day growing up, like when I think about Leimert Park, all these images like flood my head, and we could walk down the street and hear live jazz music playing. The African drum circle was really like the vocal heartbeat of Leimert Park. And you'd see people outside playing chess at Fifth Street Dick's. And I really spent my weekend going to places like the Pan African Film Festival or the African Marketplace. And it was really unique because it was an area that was surrounded by Black owned businesses. So I remember on the weekends, my mom, she knew everyone. We would go to the cake shop or the bakery, and there's a Black owned bakery. We go to the dance studio, a Black owned studio. And I remember pulling her along, like, Mom, come on. She would stop at every shop, and she had community and built community with everyone. So I just remember as a little kid pulling her, like, let's go, let's go. So that's really just to paint a picture of my surroundings as a kid. And my parents were community activists, so they really lived and breathed social justice and instilled that in us. And all of those images that I just painted for you, that was also juxtaposed by poverty, for example, and high crime rates, especially during the 90s. I remember we couldn't wear certain colors going down certain streets. So we were always like on high alert. But all that is to say that it wasn't necessarily fiscally wealthy, but in terms of cultural capital, it was off the chart. That's like the dichotomy that I was raised in, and that really informed my academic pursuits as well as my career pursuits. So at 18, I left and went to college at UC Berkeley, and I majored in American Studies. And my emphasis was race, law, and social movements. And I minored in African American Studies and then further my education at UW with a law degree. I worked as a deputy prosecuting attorney for some years, advocating for victims of domestic violence and other crimes. And when I moved back to California, I am really doing work as a parent now, which is more than a full-time job.
That's right.
I do other work, for example, in independent schools, teaching kids about social justice and Black culture. And I started a group called Parents of Black Students and created an affinity space for parents and students to feel affirmed in predominantly white, like independent schools.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's so cool to see, first of all, how your environment as a kid really shaped and formed your love for who you are and the people you come from. And that's such a gift. And then to see the way you pursued even more studies in history and social justice movements throughout your college education and even studying law. I'm thinking about all the skills that you've been trained in. And then in this stage of your life, you're raising young children. And you're using what you've been trained in to shape the way you parent. It's showing up in your home. And so the fact that you started the group, the Parents of Black Students, that is so inspirational. And I hope that our community of listeners can be encouraged that if there's an opportunity or a spark of passion in them, that they could start spaces like that where they live to lift up the diversity of cultures around us that don't often get representation.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for that example that you're showing all of us. And if you could speak a little bit to what does it look like in your home? Are there things that happen at home with conversations or activities with your children as a family that are informed by your passion for social justice?
With each kid, I really understood the importance of teaching kids about social justice and diversity and inclusion and equity early. And you don't start off with a newborn teaching them some of the complex social movements. But what I did, or what we did as a family, is we put a heavy emphasis on books at an early age. So every day, every night, we have a library here, honestly, that we've amassed over the years. And I know in the world and at school, they may not have an opportunity to see themselves reflected in stories. And even with curriculum that's taught in most places, they don't see their stories taught. So we started early reading books, and obviously they're age appropriate, but you just little by little build that confidence for them at home, because sometimes it feels like them against the world. Like sometimes, no matter how much I do at home, they're still stepping out into the real world. One of the things that we do here is education through books. And their library is filled with books of children that look like them, mirrors and windows as well. So we don't just focus on Black culture. We learn about all different types of culture. We have a section in our library that's BIPOC. We have like African history, Black culture. So it looks like a lot of reading, and that sparks conversations and stories. And it looks like an open dialogue. We allow our children to ask questions, and that is challenging at times,
Mm-hmm.
especially just healing a lot of generational trauma, I would say. Growing up, we were fortunate to have a space where we could ask questions, but there were a lot of spaces where that wasn't acceptable. It was deemed disrespectful. So, for example, at church, it was, this is the Bible, you don't question it. So, a lot of questions weren't necessarily encouraged in certain spaces. It was do it because I said so, or do as I say, not as I do. I take some of that into parenting, and it was challenging at first to or just learn myself. I had to do a lot of deep individual work of reframing what it means to be a good kid, for example.
Yeah.
So we created a space where we do allow our kids to ask questions and question us. And that can be a challenge at times because, it's like, hey, I want you to be like this when you're 20, okay? When you're negotiating that salary,
Yeah.
when you're advocating for a friend that might have been discriminated against. But right now, I just want you to listen to me. Just put your clothes on. Or it can be a challenge, but we've learned so much over the years. And I think our youngest benefits from it the most because we've evolved as parents, just doing a lot of work. So our house is an open dialogue. It's a lot of questions, it's oftentimes questioning us and just respecting our kids as human beings. We talk about current events and we let them have feelings. And I think our kids feel safe in this space. Even if they don't feel totally safe in the world, they come home. This is like their safe space to fully be themselves. And sometimes that can be a challenge as a parent.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Everything you shared is a lot of wisdom there. And I love that you brought up the power of reading. And we're not just reading just for the purpose of giving our children information, but what you shared is that you read with this purpose of an open dialogue. We're storytelling and we're learning stories to then reflect and ask questions. And I think that's really amazing to see in your example with what you shared, that for all of us who are raising our children today, not to see books as just something to check off the list, but to see it as an opportunity for depth, for connection, for growth, and letting our children explore how they understand the world, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. Did you have something to add?
I was just going to say it helps, like for my oldest, for example, it creates a model for how to respond to different stories and different perspectives. And it creates a model for her that it's okay to ask questions. So reading is an open dialogue. I'm not just, okay, it's bedtime, here's your book, the end, go to sleep. There's a lot of stopping in between. Well, why are people treated unfairly because of X, Y, and Z? So it creates a model for her. So when she hears a story out in the world or she witnesses something out in the world, she knows just from modeling at home that ask questions. And another example is, I guess as early as first grade, she would come home and tell me things about what she agreed and didn't agree with the curriculum or something that might have been said. And she's like, well, I don't agree with that because of this. And it took her a while to build the confidence and the courage to actually say these things in class. This takes years of education and creating a safe space at home. You don't just think your kids are automatically going out saying power to the people and being activists.
Yeah.
It takes time, but now in fifth grade, I honestly think her teacher probably hates seeing her raise her hand. So this year we really saw all of that kind of come together because those years of reading and educating and creating safe space at home really gave her the confidence to go out in the world and advocate for herself.
Mhm.
So they're learning about a lot of this year, the curriculum is focused on colonialism, and they started with the 13 colonies and things in America. So she is asking a lot of questions and she's actually sharing information. And one of the things that we've learned through our reading time at home is who's telling the story,
Mhm.
whose perspective is being highlighted and whose isn't, who is forgotten in this story. So that has really informed her at school during these lessons to ask those questions where, well, what was the indigenous perspective here? And why are we not learning about their story? And how would they tell this story? I'm really starting to see it come out in public, in the world, in the classroom. And I think that really starts at home, is creating that safe space at home to ask questions so they then can go out in the world and question the world around them. And that really helps to make them critical thinkers. And I think we all want that for our children.
Mhm. That's honestly so powerful. Like right here, we could end our conversation, and I think everyone would just have so much to sit with and feel inspired by. What I love in what you're sharing is that you are empowering your children to use their voice. Oftentimes, for young kids, even teenagers, the world around them doesn't value their voice. And the dominant culture where we live is to silence the voices of the children. and to train them to be a certain way,
Exactly.
a cookie cutter mold.
Mhm.
And what you're offering in your home is empowerment so your children can learn how to discover what wisdom is already in them. You're helping your children learn that I have something valuable to share. What my questions are valuable, and I want some answers that are going to give us greater perspective. And so this example of what you're sharing with the open dialogue, asking good questions, and considering the perspectives that are being lifted up and the perspectives that are being ignored,
Exactly.
that right there is a powerful practice that we can all take home with us. And we can practice this at any age.
At any age, yes.
At any age, whether our children are very young and engaging it in an age appropriate way, of course, like you mentioned, or whether our children are teenagers entering college, we can practice this at any stage and continue to empower who our children are and what they can share to the world. And so I appreciate that reminder. You said it's a long game. It's not a quick fix, but it's years and years of consistency, intention. And you're at a place as a parent where you're starting to see some of the fruit of all those years that you poured in.
Absolutely. And I see it at the different stages because of the ages of my kid. And my son, he's not there yet. He hasn't really learned the systemic racism, for example, that I've had conversations like that with my older. But I see at the different stages, and I remember when she was like that. And then they have these world experiences and they start to realize that. So it definitely takes time. And I remember as a young mom when my daughter she had to be 2 or something. And she was fussy in an elevator, and I had her in my diaper bag with a few books. So I just pulled out the book and I started reading a book, and it was a book about Martin Luther King Jr. As a pictured storybook, okay? Nothing too crazy. And my friends who are people of color were criticizing me for reading that book to her. And I remember a few years later, the same friends had come to me for book recommendations for their kid because they were experiencing some things at school, and it started to materialize into self-loathing. And that was just for me an example of how it's okay to start these conversations young in an age appropriate way. And I think like with subsequent kids, they also started the conversations very young because again, it takes time. You don't want to start a conversation with a child for the first time after they've experienced discrimination or something like that in the world. You don't want to start the conversation then. It's just like drip by drip, age appropriate conversations early.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense to me. And I think, again, it's a really important reminder for all of us to know that even as soon as they're born, there's ways that you can show them images, stories, even songs, ways to show our children how we honor and include the diversity of cultures and peoples where we live and in our world even. There is a way that we can express and teach them that, and depending on their stage of their development. And so I'm thinking about my daughter was in a school that was predominantly white a couple years ago. And I'm thinking about an experience she had where she felt like she didn't belong because she was different, she looked different. And like you're saying, we don't really want to wait for those experiences to happen where our kids are having a hard time and then they're not sure where to go or how to respond because maybe they just never talked about it. But if, as a parent at a young age, like you said, have already shared with them the realities of our world and how important it is to love who you are, what culture you come from, and to honor and love others and the cultures they come from. When these experiences happen at school, for example, they are just more prepared. They're more ready, and they might still have a hard time,
Yes.
but they just have more of this like foundation within themselves to know, well, I know my parents got me. They talked to me about this. And you, like you said, you're their safe space, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. They have the vocabulary
mhm.
to express how they feel. They have the awareness to understand what has happened. And my daughter still has a hard time. All of them do. That's not to say that we're shielding them from any hard feelings.
Yeah.
Kids observe things. There's studies as early as 6 months. Kids show a preference to faces that they see most often. So if you live in a bubble and your kids are isolated to a monolith or one type of group, they're going to show preference to that group. So it's really important for us to introduce, even through books or experiences in the world, just the exposure to different people, just having the vocabulary and the awareness to know, okay, what I'm experiencing is not because like my skin is bad or anything or my hair is bad. I know that this happens. And I know that I am beautiful because we talk about this at home. That, because you might be unique from everyone in the group doesn't mean that your skin is not beautiful or your hair is not beautiful. It definitely helps your kids to navigate situations that they experience in the world when they have the education at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing all that. It's really helpful to hear. And I know so many people are going to be taking this and applying it in their homes. One thing that I'm thinking about is I know that you come from a religious background, like your family attended church, you went to church, and you have a personal faith journey. And I think a lot of parents today who have young children, for many of us, we have had to kind of question and deconstruct the faith that we were taught. And we're on this journey of relearning what does having faith mean for us now, and how do we talk about this with our kids. And so I'm not sure if you have any insight or wisdom on that aspect of your life where you've considered your faith and how you talk about that with your family at home.
Yeah, I think I had a pivotal moment for myself in a Bible study in Seattle, actually,
Mhm.
years ago, because I struggled with, especially just being somebody who questions a lot. I struggled in the faith-based community feeling like it was wrong to question certain things, feeling like almost silencing myself, thinking like, oh no, you can't question. You can't question this. You can't question. Just stop. Feeling like I had to literally shut my brain off at times and just accept teachings and accept the word. So essentially, I had a Bible study, and the Bible study, it was a women's based Bible study that we did at somebody's house. And the leader, she said, it's okay to question. It's okay to question the Bible and to have those questions. God made you that way for a reason. That is who you are, that's your spirit, and it's okay. And she said, a lot of times you can look in the Bible and find the answers, and sometimes you can't. So I really came to terms with feeling okay questioning,
Mhm.
which, I didn't feel comfortable doing that growing up in the church, especially in the Black church.
Yeah.
So once I started on that journey of feeling like, okay, it's okay to question this, I really found comfort too in knowing it's okay to not have an answer to every question. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not real or it's not true or whatever. I am comfortable knowing that spirituality, faith, everything is so complex, and it's okay to have questions and to seek answers. And I have peace knowing that some things I'm not going to feel satisfied with an answer, or I'm not going to have an answer. A lot of things are just beyond my understanding. In our house, we allow our kids to have questions, to ask questions. And I'm very open with them about, like, well, what do you think? This is what I believe. This is what makes sense to me. And sometimes telling them, I don't know. It's been an interesting journey, I will say, with faith and raising our kids. We do teach them things that we learned, and we do teach them about the importance of knowing that there's something bigger than us. My husband especially really leans on some of the teachings that he learned as a kid, and he finds comfort in that. So we just allow our kids to evolve in their faith with our guidance without forcing them to believe. And at the end of the day, for the most part, they believe what we believe. Instead of forcing them to, this is this, we allow for that safe space to ask questions. And I've noticed too that they usually will adopt our value system as well. It just from allowing them to have that space to ask questions and stuff.
That makes a lot of sense because I've even seen some research and some beginning projects from other scholars that they're looking at how a safe home and a secure attachment at home is a prime place to pass on spiritual values and to pass on the faith. And it's so interesting what you said that for many of us who, especially were part of Christian churches in the United States, the dominant perspective was, like you said, to be certain about your faith and to not ask questions about the Bible and not to question God. But I think we're evolving as a collective and we're noticing that there's actually a truer faith, like a deeper faith when you realize there's mystery
Mhm.
and you can just trust in God or your whatever source that you believe in. You can trust in God to hold you in the mystery. And like you said,
I love that.
we don't have to have an answer for every question. Sometimes what God's asking us to do is to just be still and to be patient and to just see how life unfolds. And all that to say, this is impacting how we parent because we are on a journey of exploring our faith. We're on a journey of realizing there's a lot of things that I don't know the answer to, and it's okay. And because we're not, I would say, with what you're sharing, I resonate with your approach. We're not imposing faith on our children. We are inviting them to the dialogue. We're inviting them to the journey. We're
I love
inviting
that.
them, yeah, we're inviting them to the exploration. And what sticks out to me with as you were sharing is you're offering that love, an environment of love, and that's more enticing than an environment of domination and control.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh, Nettie, you have always have so much wisdom. You touch me in so many ways with your knowledge and wisdom. Like such certain things that you've said over the years stick with me. And that was beautifully said. You know, inviting them to the conversation, inviting them to have a dialogue, and is much more enticing love is than domination. Wow.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And part of that comes from our understanding of who God is, because many of us were taught that God was in control of things and we weren't. And there's new understandings that are being shared that, well, what if we actually co-create with God and we join with God in the work of love in the world? And that means God's inviting us, not so much controlling us. So, how we understand God can really impact how we love our children because we want to reflect that love in our homes, right? And as we raise our
Yes.
kids. So,
Yes.
there are communities that take their faith and social justice very seriously, they go together. And that's the values in the communities that we're a part of with this project is we bring together how our faith is a resource for our activism and our efforts towards healing and justice in our society and in our world. And so thanks for being another person who can join in on that and offer some wisdom. Is there anything coming up for you, like a thought or question?
I would just say, just piggybacking on what you said, is a lot of the pillars of social justice are completely in line with faith-based pillars. So teaching kids about fairness and equity, they go hand in hand. So I can see the alignment here with the faith-based and social justice because really teaching your kids about social justice is also teaching them about fairness and equity, which most parents value. Like that's a family value. So I love the community that you have built and others have built that prioritize the intersectionality of social justice and faith.
Absolutely. And I think it comes with this understanding that as humans, we are more than just a physical body. We're more than just the rational mind. We do have spirits within us. There are things that we experience that we can't fully articulate. And so the spiritual part of our reality and the spiritual part of being human, it's important in how we show up in the world. And so, yeah, that's where those intersections come at play. And then I'm thinking about in the Christian tradition, when we really look to the life of Jesus and how Jesus lived according to the scriptures, Jesus lifted up those who were most marginalized. Jesus touched the bodies of those who were most outcast. And Jesus would want to give to the poor around
Yes.
him. And it's really a beautiful model for us to see from that perspective who Jesus is. And so there's this awakening and there's this shift on what it means to be a person of faith and teach our kids how to show up in the world with love and compassion for everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
This is what I believe are the conversations that will truly help us parent our way into a better tomorrow.
Yes, it really does start with us. Like healing ourselves makes us better parents.
Yeah. And to lift up that what happens at home is really crucial. And what happens at home with our kids really impacts the way that our children become adults. What kind of laws and policies and rules and systems our children will be creating when they grow older. And it's really connected to their childhood upbringing.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, this is the most important work we can do as parents. The most
Yep,
important work.
that's right. Well, thank you, Mina. I feel like one of the greatest takeaways was the way that you value educating your children through books at home. And there's books that represent diversity of cultures and ethnicities and traditions.
Mhm.
And you're also teaching your children to love and honor their tradition and who they come from, their lineage,
Yes.
and creating the space to explore with safety and love through the story of the book. This is more than just reading. This is a true dive into discovering deeper truths.
Yeah, and even religion. We learn about different religions and different spiritual practices.
Yeah. As we get ready to close, is there maybe one piece of advice that you'd want to offer? I know you already gave us some great wisdom, but is there like a practical tip or piece of advice you'd like to share with our community?
I would say just embrace compassion for yourself and extend that kindness to your children. For me, I'm hard on myself a lot. So I reflect every day, okay, what could I have done better? I would just say give yourself grace. This is not easy work. And in turn, extend that grace to your kids and apologize to them. We're not perfect, but I model for them what that looks like. And I start to see them doing that too. So I would just say, yes, embrace compassion for yourself and also for your children and just fostering an environment where empathy and understanding are paramount.
Absolutely. That's great advice and something that I hope we can all take and practice in our lives at home. Is there anything that we can do to support the work that you're a part of?
Oh, one other thing I would say is definitely seeking out supportive spaces. The work that I do outside of the home with like parents of Black students, and I have been going recently to independent schools and doing teaching like social justice activities for the kids, like hands-on activities. And I would just say spaces like this, radically inclusive parenting. Seek out communities with like-minded parents that want to raise their kids in a similar way because that support is paramount. Like parents of Black students, it's a space for the kids, but it's really a space for the parents to build community. And in turn, that helps their kids feel a sense of community and they feel affirmed in their identity, especially in spaces where they may not feel affirmed. So, yes, seek out those supportive spaces.
Absolutely. And it's a way of resisting
Absolutely.
dominant culture because what our dominant culture values is this hyper individualistic lifestyle. And when we remember that we actually are made to be in community, we're made to be in connection with others who are loving towards us. That's where we experience like fullness of life right there. That's
Mhm.
where we can tap into
100%.
our greatest potential is with community. So we need each other. We say this a lot in our community. We need each other. We're here for one another. And let's continue to lean into the power of community for especially a time like this that we're in right now.
Yes.
So thank you for
Of
offering that. That's so
course.
amazing. It was such a joy to be able to talk more about parenting, social justice, faith, and just continue to encourage each other on this, what I call a wild ride.
Very wild. Thank you, Nettie, for having me. And it's always a pleasure and a blessing to just be in community with you and share space from you and learn from you. You've impacted me in ways you don't even know.
Thanks for that. That means a lot. Thank you, Amena.
You've been listening to Nurturing Parents, the official podcast of the Radically Inclusive Parenting Project. We hope today's conversation offered you a moment of connection, a spark of insight, or simply a reminder that you are not alone on your parenting journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone in your village. Together, we're building a more inclusive future, one conversation and one child at a time. For more information about the Radically Inclusive Parenting Project, visit us at inclusiveparents.org or follow us on social media at radically.inclusive.parent.